Hi, this is Salahuddin with lecture number 4, and today we will talk about the foreign policy of England under William III. Uh, we talked about in the previous lectures. Those lectures are a bit lengthy because of their uh, contents, and now in this topic, which is quite short. So this topic, foreign policy of England under William III, which starts from 1689 to 1702. In this lecture, we will talk about the foreign policy of England, which William had adopted toward his neighboring states. In this regard, three important policies are very important in this regard. The first one is the uh, submission of Ireland, right? Second one is submission of Scotland. By submission, we mean these countries, in a one way or another, either defeated or they uh, they show their consensus or show their agreements or concluded pacts with England. And the third one is France and William. How William behaved with France. The first and important thing is that at that time in Europe, there were two great powers. In the two great powers, they all uh, were already on a kind of intimacy, and they had they were stubborn enemies of each other, and these two were France and England. Because of their convergence of commercial activities, of the both the powers, they were naval powers, great naval powers. Thus, both these two powers were contemporary of each other in the Europe. How their economic interest converged. England had colonies. They had colony in Asia at that time, and France was also in this subcontinent. So they were also fighting here for their economic interest. In the same way, they had colonies and they had economic interest in the West Indies alliance, and they had also interests in the North America, and even they were also in there in the African countries. So thus they were a kind of on bad terms due to their economic interest. Secondly, both the countries were they had great navies. In at that time, navy, the import and exports. So this all would take place through the 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 sea routes. Therefore, they had well established their navy. In this regard, these two countries were naval powers and would often fight wars against each other. Another important thing is mm, mm, so what was the policy of William III at this time? So what wanted, William wanted to establish balance of power in Europe. On the other hand, France, Louis XIV wanted to remain supreme power at that time. So, thus these two conflicting ideologies results in war. And even with the after the Glorious Revolution in 1689, England and France, they fought war for more than 100 years. These wars started from the Glorious Revolution and lasted till 1797. Because the Glorious Revolution, it was against the France whims, or against William's wishes. Thus, they had in a kind of in seeking revenge against each other. So we will talk about the submission of Ireland. So what happened in Ireland at that time? Uh, James, so how was the foreign policy of William III towards Ireland? So what happened with Ireland? And this took place between 1689 to 91, and finally a defeat or a pact was signed in 91 with Ireland. Ireland was a small state, or you can say in today's world it was a kind of small state, and at that time, the then time, it was a small area. So, and still the part of England, but now the current status is different from the earlier one. So, how was the foreign policy of William III towards Ireland? James II, uh, who had played France, and then again reinstating himself and accumulating his army, and with the help of France, uh, James II came to Ireland. And when he came to Ireland with the help of France and even with the help of French soldiers, here the Irish, they were Catholic. Mostly they were Catholic. Majority of them were Catholic, and they would not accept the royalty of the William III, the King of England. Thus, and they were Catholics, so France and Catholics, so they were on good terms. Thus, the Irish, they supported James II as well, and from there, James II came along with the French soldier as well. So thus, James II, when came to Ireland, he besieged the Protestants of Ireland and the port of Londonderry, which is the name of a place. But what happened when William came to know this? He reached for their help for the help of the Protestant in 1690, and thus a war again fought again between James II and the soldiers of William. But the James II was defeated at the beach of a river known as Boyne River, and this war was fought on the beach of the bank of Boyne River. The Irish then concluded a treaty with the William in 1691, which they got freedom of worship and accepted William as their throne. Earlier, as we talked about, that they were Catholics, so they were given freedom of worship, and as a result, they accepted the throne of William on England. So this was his policy toward Ireland, that they fought wars with James William III with the help of James II. and Louis the Putin providing help to James II to bring him again to the throne of England. So this was the first point, the foreign policy toward Ireland. Then coming to the uh, foreign policy toward Scotland. Similarly, Scotland was also a small area of England, and they were mostly Protestant, but some of the Hailey tribes, they were not in accordance to accept the throne of William III to the throne of England. Thus, again, a war took place between Scottish and William III. Uh, as Scottish rebelled against the king, their leader, known as Viscount Dandy, defeated the forces of William. Viscount Dandy, who was the commander in chief of the Scottish army, are those Hailey tribes who were fighting against James II. He defeated the army of William III at Kellincrank. Kellincrank is the name of a place. But the sudden death of the said commander Dendi forced the tribes the tribe to retire, or the tribes were defeated, or their morale was shackled when Dandy and the commander in chief was died. So all of them surrendered by 1st January 1692, and except Mellon MacDonald, all those Scottish people, the Hailey tribes people, they were surrendered by that time, but only one person, along with his uh, some people who did not surrender, and the name of that person is Mellon MacDonald. uh, Glencoe. Glencoe is the name of a place, and he was the commander of that specific place, Glencoe. So consequently, again there a war fought between the Mellon MacDonald at Glencoe with the army of James II. So the bloodshed took place, people got murdered there. So thus it brings a very bad name to William III. So again, the Scottish surrendered. They concluded pact and accepted William III as the king of England. And now coming to the France and William III. So what France would like to do, and what William wishes. France would uh, desire, Louis the XIV desire to becoming a mighty ruler, while William's desires of keeping the balance of power in Europe. So Louis helped to James II for his restoration of the of English throne, and the commercial rivalry between England and France led to continue war between the two states, between the two countries, and this war was ended and these wars were ended in 1797. So for more than a century, the wars between the two countries fought. In the start of the lecture, we talked about the causes of those wars that were fought between England and France. So thus, what William wanted to establish balance of power in Europe. On the other hand, France desire to remain mighty. In this regard, they held also what fought wars and taking alliances and getting side of the either. Thus, these wars remained for more than a century, and finally, in 1797, they concluded a faked and in a peace agreement. This is all about the foreign policy of William 3 in foreign policy toward Ireland. We have talked about then the foreign policy towards Scotland, and then foreign policy toward France. So this is all about the reign, the tenure of William 3, uh, during which a lot of wars took place in in the past science, and many more things happens in this regard. So thank you so much for watching the video, and if there is any question must ask in the comment section. I'm reading your comments. If there is any question, I'm highly be obliged to answer those questions. Thank you so much.